Good morning. My name's Iver Bye. And with a name like that, of course, my cute saying is, don't pass me by, vote Iver Bye. Okay? It's Norwegian, and so I'm half Norwegian, but on my mom's side, I've got some, Swedish and Danish, so it's like, I'm pretty much Scandinavian. So that means that I am very independent. I don't need government. And the biggest thing government can do for me is stay out of my life. Jesus the Christ said in Hosea 6:8, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." This is becoming a prophecy in this country, from the federal government on down to the local government. We do not know our history. We are ignorant of the Declaration of Independence. We are ignorant of the Constitution of the United States. And the thing that bothers me so much is our rights are being infringed upon by even conservative Apple Valley Town Council. And this is why I started getting involved, because a couple was cited in Apple Valley for having a Bible study in their house, even though there is no ordinance prohibiting that in America. But that's happening in San Diego. It happened in Venice, Florida. It seems like there's a concerted effort to shut down people of faith. Okay? Now, that is an infringement on our rights protected by the Constitution to use our property however we choose to do it, as long as it does not endanger our neighbors. Secondly, we can only have a few garage sales a year. You've got to get a permit. Now, apparently it doesn't cost you anything, but why? So they can keep track of you. What business is it of the government to know how many garage sales I have? Maybe the people on the town council don't need garage sales, but most people do because of the times that we are in. We can't advertise. We can't put things out on the sidewalk saying garage sale down the street. I personally saw a code enforcement person one Saturday morning driving down Apple Valley Road, and he stopped and went and got two signs that said garage sale pointing down the street, picks them up, throws them into the back of his truck. I drive by, and then I see a sign, from the computer, lost dog, had a picture of the dog, call so-and-so, and you can have your dog. As I'm driving by, I see the code enforcement, by this time, is in his truck. He stops and he pulls that sign down. So we can't even help our neighbors, love our neighbors as ourselves, by retrieving their property and hold it for them, because it's against the law. Then I saw two more signs about a garage sale, and they were brand new signs. So I pulled over, and I waited to see if he was going to pull this down. Yes, he did. He took them both. I walked up to him and I said, "What authority do you have for doing this?" And he gave me a code set. But it's like, the more I'm learning, it's like, hold it, it is time to reclaim our rights under the Constitution. Now, Jesus also said, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. He said that in Matthew, he said that in Luke. And so my two main passions are, number one, talking about Jesus Christ. Secondly, is the Constitution of this country, the founders of this country, and how our rights are being taken away. It is time to stop what the government is doing. There's a great story. If you consider yourself to be a conservative and a constitutionalist, weigh this according to a great story about Davy Crockett. When he was a congressman, he was back in Tennessee, and he was walking by this farm. He saw this farmer plowing, and he stopped. He waited for the farmer to get there. He wanted to talk to him. Farmer looked at him, turned the horse around, went the other way. That really surprised Crockett. Well, when the guy came back, Crockett said, "I'd like to talk to you." Farmer said, "I don't want to talk to you." And he said, "Well, do you know who I am?" "Yeah, you're Davy Crockett, you're my congressman, and I don't want to talk to you." And Crockett said, "Why not?" And the farmer stopped the horse, put his arms on the plow, and he said, "Look, I know my Constitution." How many of us can say we know our Constitution? Okay? Some of us can, most of us can't. But he said last month Congress passed unanimously a vote to give $10,000 to a widow of a war veteran. Crockett said, yeah, I remember that. I voted for that. Yeah, it was unanimous. And then the farmer looked at him and said, Congress has no right to give public money to private individuals. And Crockett was taken aback and said, you're right. And he went into town to apologize. So that would eliminate food stamps, that would eliminate welfare, that would eliminate a lot of government programs, whether on the federal level or the town level. It's time to get us back our rights, and this is why I'm running. Because Agenda 21, if you haven't heard of Agenda 21, check it out. That's what's happening even here in Apple Valley Town Council, United Nations. We've got to stop it. Thank you very much. Don't pass me by, vote Iver Bye.
We have time for questions.
Oh, I could come up with a question for each of these wonderful candidates. I've actually prioritized 2 questions that I have. My first question is for Mr. Piper. Mr. Piper, you were talking about that the town needs to take more control over the water situation. I'm interested in, obviously water is a complicated issue. I don't, want the whole macro picture, but would you be willing to be a little bit more specific about what that means to you and the actual, exactly what you're talking about as far as a process to do that? And Mr. Bye, you were talking about the code enforcement process of going out and picking up the signs. Yeah, that definitely the way that you portray it, it sounds like a problem, but I'm interested in what you propose as a solution to that. Thank you.
Well, on water, it basically functions in about $100 million chunks from what I can tell. It's basically what you got to have in your pocket to start out in the game of water. Water is the business of cities, at least successful ones. If you look at the value of any of the cities around here, we come out 3rd place if you figure Victorville, Hesperia, Apple Valley, basically because we don't control any water. We're going to have to restructure our budget. I figure about 10%, about $10 million a year. And that's going to take a chunk out of other projects. But if we don't cover our own water, it's going to be a lot worse. Down the hill, they make more money than we do. They're going to be able to buy our water out from under us if we don't do something about it. Does that cover your question?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that question. This is very simple. You will, if you hang around me very often, you will know that I quote Jesus quite a lot. And he said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Render unto God what is God's. In this country, we have been duped down to believe we are not Caesar. We in this country are Caesar. We make the laws. The people we elect are our representatives. But we are the authority, and we have forgotten that. So what we do as Caesar, we go in and we change those ordinances. And I would eliminate the ordinance about any limitation whatsoever on garage sales, okay? And eliminate anything about signs. If somebody wants to put a sign, I don't care what the sign is, on their own personal property, they should have the right to do that. But we've got an ordinance that, no, you can't do that. Political signs are a good example. You cannot put them out until 45 days before the election. Well, the government does not have the right to tell me what I can or cannot put up on my property as a sign. And we're not talking a big billboard type thing. I'm talking about the traditional lawn signs. But it's eliminating those ordinances and giving more freedom back to the people that live here in Apple Valley. Make us a home again. When we are at home, nobody can tell us, no, you can't put your feet up on the coffee table unless your wife tells you that, okay? But the government can't. And, and other things. So let's start making Apple Valley more of a home again. This is why we moved here in the first place, to make it a home. But Big Brother government is saying, no, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that, and you're going to get fined. you know, and you better watch your animals, or we're going to come in and we don't care about the Fourth Amendment, okay? And, you know, people don't like lawyers. Lawyers have caused a lot of problems, but it's not lawyers, it's liberal lawyers. I'm not a liberal lawyer. Now, 99% of the lawyers give the rest of us a bad name, and I'll tell you that. But does that answer your question, what I would do? Yes. Thank you.
I have a question for just generally anyone. It's been my experience in going to council meetings and watching the town council. Excuse me for not standing up, I've got a broken toe. This is not exclusive to Apple Valley. It seems to be typical of most municipal governments, county and cities. Our council people are given reports from staff. Staff comes up with something. If the council sees a problem, they turn it over to staff. Staff makes a report. It comes back to the council, and the council acts on that report. If the staff has a particular political or social or whatever leaning, that is going to be reflected in that report. The way staff is educated, the way staff is even personally influenced. Is there a possibility, or does anyone here see a possibility of requiring from staff a minority report, a report that would be in conflict or give the opposite opinion in order to eliminate, well, you'll never eliminate unforeseen circumstances, but to reduce the effect of the law of unseen consequences, unintended consequences?
I'm not sure I can answer this exactly the way you want, but I understand what you're saying. At least in Apple Valley, I can give you a good example. In one certain department, animal control, they do a good job. They have rules, and then they turn the report into somebody else. So that report goes from here to here to here. It's never the same as when it started out. You know, the old rumor, 10 people. Okay, I think there needs to be a better checks and balance system on what is going on starting from here. For example, I know personally a neighbor has 11 dogs. Now, that's against the law. And yet, this person gets away with it because they know somebody at animal control and they're getting away with it. Well, now, that's fine, but it just cost you and I a pretty penny a couple weeks ago because one dog got loose and got a pit bull, they're mostly pit bulls, got after a little poodle. Well, that dog had to be shot. And that's okay. That's their business and it's on their property. However, had this been under control and a checks and balance system done and watched over, or however you want to say it, police, patrolled, whatever, this wouldn't happen because now we paid for how many sheriff's cars? We didn't pay for the bullet, but then we paid for a helicopter to be brought out. And all this expense to our town because somebody didn't watch and do a checks and balance. So I think that if they have a checks and balance system and you start here and the report goes here, and it can be very biased one way or another, we need something that, or somebody that can check on every, you know, kind of not every step and not be a babysitter, but watch better over what we're doing and what's being done so that it doesn't cost you like it's been doing and like other towns, and they're going down for it. That's what I would say, a balanced system, whether it's biased or not. Did you want to say something?
Well, you're absolutely right. And I'll be the first one to tell you that, Jim, you're absolutely right. And I'll be the first one to tell you, did I do that right? Yeah, you're good. Jim, you're absolutely right. And I agree with you completely. I've unfortunately seen a lot of people go on the town council, but I have to tell you, I think it's a lot more evidence in federal and state government, especially term limits, causes a lot of problems because your staffers become the people ruling government, and so do your lobbyists. But let's go back to town councils. One of the nice things of having 34 years as a staffer is when I ask for an agenda item to be forward, and that's what you're asking for, I'm asking staff to look into a certain subject, whether it be animal control, public works, water issues. I would hope with the water issues, my last 8 years with the Hobby Water Agency, because I'm hearing things that we ought to know by now, because we put out publication after publication after publication